Hello guys, today we will try to implement a notification system in Vtiger. We know how to attach Vue.js to Vtiger, so we know how to use Vue.js in Vtiger, we know how to work with RabbitMQ. Today we will try to tie everything up. We will try to implement notification system with RabbitMQ, with Vue.js, and everything will work in Vtiger. So let's start working. Let's try to implement some very easy notification system. Whether you know how to work with WebSockets and everything else. So let's try to notify a user if his lead was changed or created. Let's, for example, check this scenario. For example, everybody else changed lead, where assigned user is administrator, and you want to notify this user, in our case administrator, that his lead was changed. How to do it? In order for notification, for example, we want to create this bell icon, for example, here, and notify user with pop-up. Easy way to do it, it's for example, you can create JavaScript, create with timeout, and check database if something was changed. But it's very hard operation for server and hard for database. Let's implement it with WebSockets. For example, we will send to JavaScript information then that something was changed. So in this case, let's try to create workflow. And you can ask how RabbitMQ will be a part of this notification system. So I'll try to explain you. For example, if something was changed, we can create a workflow, and this workflow will send information to RabbitMQ. Then when information attached to RabbitMQ with its own queue, we can listen it through our WebSocket server, and then send it to our client-side application through WebSocket channel. So let's try to implement this scenario. So first things first, we need to do is create our workflow. Let's create just very easy stuff. Let's create just our custom function, and let's create our workflow. I think you remember the main helper function, which help us to send data to our queue. It's MQ helper, and for these purposes, so we have already 3 queues. It's contact, Vt contacts, and Vt internal. So let's create a new queue. And call it notification. So for these purposes, we need to create a new constant, and we'll call it notifications. I'll just copy paste for quickly video recording, and we will need to initialize, create new function for initializing our new queue, and we'll call it init internal notification, and just almost copy paste of these functions, but we'll use another queue name. We'll call our queue notifications, and yeah, I think that's all for this helper function. And now what we need to do, it's let's create new service, the same thing as we did in our asynchronous event handlers. We can create new helper service. For example, we have a new service event creator. We can use almost the same thing, but for our notification purposes. Let's create a new class, the same thing as in case with event creator service. We'll create a new class and call it notification creator. let's call new class, for example, Vtiger notification creator service, and we'll call file notification creator, and the same thing, we'll use the same libraries as in case with the event creator, and just copy paste from here. And what we will need for this class, what type of properties. I think we need to send in our notification system user ID, link, and message. So we want to display a notification message in our Vtiger, and this notification message should contain our message, of course, a link in order user want to check what type of lead and open its detail view. And of course we should attach specific notification to our user ID. So that's why let's create our constructor with just almost copy paste this constructor with properties. Yeah, let's declare these properties our user ID. We will store user ID of message. We will store assigned user ID of specific lead to this property. We will attach a link to our lead. We will attach model name and message. A message which we will display in our popup. And we will use the dependency injection for MQ stream connection. I will declare all these properties in constructor and connect to RabbitMQ. So, and let's the same thing as we used in our event connector. Let's just copy paste and change our data array to our new properties. So, and yeah, we'll copy this function and paste it here and just change this data array. We will use type message in order our WebSocket will know what type of notification. Because, for example, in the future we want to create a notification for tables, for example, or and so on. I will explain later what type of notifications we can use for Vtiger and Vue.js. And in this class we will call our type only notification, and we'll attach to our data array user ID, message, link, and model. We'll just decode it and send it to channel. So the same thing as we used our past videos. Now create our workflow. And we will call it, just create an empty file and call it send notification. And of course we will use our new helper class, helper servers, and we will require it in case if Vtiger cannot connect our new service, and declare a function send notification. And it will accept web service entity. And just copy paste our previous block of code. Which is the same thing. We will get web service ID, we'll get model name, and check if everything is okay. And we will get our CRM ID. And if CRM ID is 0 or null, we will stop this function. Now let's create our instance. We will use Vtiger record model, get instance by ID, and let's pass CRM ID. And in this case, we created our leads record model. Now we can Now state our model, I mean service model in our case. Let's call it service model. And we'll call new Vtiger notification creator service. And here we need to pass our parameters. What type of parameters we need to pass? So we need to pass user ID. Where can we get user ID? It should be integer. And let's get our assigned user ID. Yes, and now second parameters, it's message. So it will be, I think, it's up to you what type of message you need to pass, but let's pass, for example, name or label of our model. In case to get life very easy, we get name. Then we need to pass link. It should be detail URL, my model instance, and we have helper function for in this case get detail URL, and we need to pass model name. Let's get it from our instance. Get model name. When we created our model, we can generate our queue. So now we need to register our custom function, and the best place for this purposes it's lead model. And first of all, we need to touch entity manager, and using this entity manager we can create. We can attach our custom function to our model. So let's do it. It's very easy. We need to declare entity manager, and before that we need to import our global variable. We created entity manager instance, and now we can add entity method to our database. Here you are. We call method add entity method to model name leads. We call it send notification. Function pass send notification file, and function name send notification. And if our model is disabled, we'll call function remove entity method, like this. Now, what we need to do, we need just to enable and disable model. Here. Now we can create new workflow. We'll call it leads notification. Notify user when lead was updated. And when lead was updated, let's invoke custom function. We'll call send notification, send notification. Let's press save. And now our queue is empty, and now let's try to update lead. Update. Update our queue. Yeah, notification running, and we have one message. So we got message to our RabbitMQ. Now let's try to get this message. Let's try to pass this message to our frontend application right here. How can we do it? So to display messages from server, we need to attach our Vue.js application to web service. And web service will listen these events. When event is coming to RabbitMQ, we will pass this event to our Vue.js application, and then in Vue.js we will display our messages, our notification system. So how can we create web services? So for this we will use Node.js. Hopefully we already installed Node.js with npm in order to create Vue.js applications. So let's create web service directory. Now let's create a WebSocket directory here. We'll call it WebSocket. Luckily, as I told you before, we've installed Node.js already in order to get Vue.js working. We have npm installed, and we can very easy and very efficiently create WebSocket application based on Node.js. How can we do it? So let's create firstly package.json file. Let's add it and let's fill it with all our information here. We need firstly we need IMQ library to get everything works. We need .env support in order to save all our secret credentials in env file. We need support for our file system, JSON web token support, and of course support of our WebSocket library. And let's add gitignore file. Do we have gitignore? Let's just name it like here, gitignore. The typo. And let's add these files to our GNOME. We will exclude node models folder, env, and public key. And let's start with npm install. Everything is good. Now we have node models folder. We've got package log, and let's start coding, and let's create our WebSocket application. Let's create new file, index.js. Okay. What we need for starting point. As I told before, for our WebSocket application, we need installed npqlib library. It's a library which can help us to connect to our RabbitMQ. This library will help us to get secret data from our env files. Let's create new file, env, and let's declare our connection to RabbitMQ in this environment variable, like this. We will take this URL from our RabbitMQ cloud management system. So to pass env variable from this file here, we need to declare also our library. And let's import all our libraries to our variables like this. We'll require WebSocket, require file system, .env, and MQP. Now let's load our .env, and let's start to connecting to our WebSocket. Let's declare variable like this. We'll call WebSocket server, call server method, and we'll listen port 8003. And now we have new event for this variable server on, and we can call event on connection, and we can pass callback function with two parameters, WebSocket and request. And now for testing purposes, let's console log our IP address for this connection. And now we need a client for connecting to this server. Where can we find this client? So for this purposes, let's start from creating our new component for Vue.js. I don't think it will be not so hard. Let's create a new component and call it, for example, web notifications. Yeah, we need to register it somewhere. Let's, for example, create our bell right here. And for this it will be LE tag. I'll just copy paste a markdown here. Yeah, just copy paste of our icon with nothing on it. And what we need to do first, it's register this component in our main.js file. And you just import our notification here and regularly register our component. Now let's pass our component right here somewhere. We need to create icon, and this icon is located in our top bar TPL file. Let's find it, top bar, yeah, right here, and somewhere before calendar, let's attach our notifications. Web notifications. But before testing, let's think about it. What should we pass here? I think we should know what type of user comes to our component, because we need to filter all our WebSocket events. We need to pass events to specific user, not to all of them. So we need to pass ID. For these purposes, let's create props. And pass user. We'll accept user in this component. Type will be string, and it will be required. And yeah, just let's pass our user to component like this. We have user model already here, and just need to get ID user. Now if we'll if we will run our application, now we should see our icon. Like this, but I think we need to add some styles here in order to be a little bit cleaner. Like this, for clean purposes. And What should we do next? We need to connect to our WebSocket server somehow. Let's declare, for example, check. Yeah, now it looks good a little bit. Now let's create our setup function. And how can we connect to our server? And of course, we can do it through our unmounted hook. So that's why let's import our helper functions from Vue. And let's declare variables. Do we need some data variables or not? But let's think about it. Firstly, if we will connect to our WebSocket server and we'll get data, somehow we need to pass it to our component. And somehow we need to connect to our WebSocket server. How can we do it? Yeah, let's create a unmounted function, and this will be our arrow function. And here we can declare connection to our WebSocket, but it will be a little bit not good to handle everything in one component, because we can create special model or special external function specifically for connecting to WebSocket. So let's do it. Let's create in our services folder init WebSocket function. Not CSS. And we'll just export default init WebSocket. And we will pass here ID of our user, because we need to somehow filter incoming data. And yeah, let's declare our socket. For this purpose we have WebSocket object. We can create it, and here we will pass our URL. And we can store our URL in our env file. Let's create it. Our URL will be just local one with port 8003. Yeah, and it will be very easy. So we created socket. Now socket is established, and let's check if it's open or not. Socket on open. We have a special event for all these purposes, and it will be function with params, and just let's console log. Connected to WebSocket. And now when we created this file, we need to call it in our component. Let's go in unmounted hook, and yeah, just call it. But before, we need to import this file like this, and yeah, we can just call our function init WebSocket, and here we need to pass an ID, and it will be easy, I think, because in the first parameter of step function we accept props, and here we can pass props user like this, and yeah, now we can test it. Let's test it. But yeah, one little remark. No, this one is not secure. To pass ID, ideally you need to encrypt this ID and use GVT tokens. But Vtiger doesn't have support for GVT tokens. We need to create it from scratch. I will tell about it on the next video. But for this identification purposes, I don't think it will be. We should secure this policy and use GT tokens because it's just notifications. We don't have any sensitive data. So just leave it like this. When you don't have sensitive data, we can just pass ID of user. That's all. But ideally, of course, you should use GT token, and yeah, I will tell about it on the next video. So let's test it. Let's run our Node application, Node.js, and let's refresh our page. Yeah, we have connected to web service. Here we have console log, and let's check our Node.js. Yeah, it's connected. So everything is working. And then let's go to our server. Let's check what can we do here. Firstly, of course, we need to somehow to get data from RabbitMQ. And then we need to pass this data to our WebSocket server. Let's start with AMPQ. We declared our variable AMQP, and let's get data from AMQP. Here we will connect to AMQP. In this function we need to pass URL. We have this URL in the env file. And second parameter it's a callback. If here will be error and error in connection to RabbitMQ, we will console log error and return. And we will do nothing else. And then if connection was successful, we create a channel. And if channel does not exist, we will have error. So make sure that the channel exists, and check this channel in Vtiger first. And maybe use some hooks in Vtiger to check channel notification if it exists or not. And then we'll call consume method. So we listen for events in RabbitMQ. We'll pass queue notification, and as a result we got a message. We will pass in JSON format this message, and temporarily we'll console log value. Then we'll check all clients. We'll get array of clients and pass to clients message result. But before that, we will check if user ID is equal to callback in AMQP. So here we have user ID variable, and we'll check if it's equal or not. But in web service by default we don't have user ID. We need to pass it, and the best way to pass it is here in connection hook. Let's do it. Here, when message was received, we will pass this message, and we will check if data type is equal to auth. We will pass user ID param to our user, to our WebSocket object. Yeah, we can do it in JavaScript, and of course we will use this opportunity to pass additional data to objects. And you can ask, what is it? What does it mean? Data type auth. We can get past auth. So I'll explain you right now. This event will call when client is connected to this WebSocket. So when we will refresh this page, this event, this log is called, and then we will call on message hook, and here we will pass our callback. Here we will receive message, and we will check if type is equal to auth. So how can we pass this message? In our init WebSocket, let's this one here we can pass to WebSocket server. So let's pass some information. And firstly, we need to check if ID is okay, if we'll pass ID and if it's not null. So if ID, and then we can send to socket additional data. So we can send message to our socket. So let's send message, and we need to pass it in JSON format like this. We will pass additional property in object. This is this authentication hook, and we will pass ID of user. So we send message to our WebSocket server with this function. Then this WebSocket server accept this message, and then he will add additional parameter to WebSocket object with user ID. Then here we can listen this parameter and send to specific client message. Yeah, it will be not so easy, but if you will code with me, I think you will understand everything very quickly. Now, so in WebSocket, now we successfully sent messages. Now we need somehow to accept these messages in our WebSocket client. So how can we do it? Here we can declare additional function or additional event, socket on message. It accepts callback with event name, and now if we will accept this event data, somehow we need to pass it to component. The best way to pass data between components or external functions is to use Vue.js store. And here in package.json I added two additional libraries: Vue notification, it's just a library for notification system, and Vuex. Then you can run npm install here, and these two additional libraries will be installed successfully. Then we need to import store, and you need to import all these libraries here in main.js. So we imported store, we imported toast system, we imported also yeah, and now we need to create special store file here. Let's create it. We'll create a store folder, and here we'll create file index.js. And now you need to declare Vuex store. So what you need to do? First of all, you need to import create store method from Vuex. And let's import, as we can read in documentation for this library Vue certification, we need to import this library in our Vuex store too. And we need to create toast object, and let's create store. So this store will be very easy. First of all, we need to declare in state our notifications array. By default it's empty, and we declare user ID. Then we will need to create two mutations. First mutation is add notification. We will just push to our notifications array new notifications object, and notation for remove notification. And then we will call action fire notification. Here we just show our pop-up with some information, module name, and we will pass message. And with onClick function, we will just open a new pop-up with our lead detail view. And then we commit to add notification mutations new data. So what we will accept here? What does mean notification object? So this object we will accept data from our WebSocket server. So here in WebSocket now this server will send all data to our client. In our case, our client will be this component. This component we call hook init WebSocket function and pass here props user. Then this function will listen on events, on message events, and then when we will accept a message, here we can call actions through Vuex store. So we imported store from Vuex. Now we can just dispatch our action like this. So we will get event data. So we get the event from WebSocket server, and we will need to get data. We will just parse this data in JSON and get an object. And we will, as a result, we will get this object, this one. This object we will pass to Vuex store. And of course we will check if data type is a notification, because we can support different data types. And if this data type is a notification, we can dispatch store. Something wrong here, it's because we need to create store object. Like this. We will declare store object, and now we can dispatch event and pass this data here. And then we will call this fire notification action, this main action, which will show pop-up. This is just a pop-up component with all information, with all parameters, and make a commit. Now here we need to declare additional data. So what we will need to add here additionally? So first of all, we need to somehow to read all list of all notifications. So for this purposes we need to create compute property where we can read all notifications. So we imported compute property, we imported use store, and created our store object. And we created compute property here and get all notifications. Then we will pass all notifications to our template. Now let's check our template. I created special pop-up here. For example, it will be much more better if when we will click to this bell, we can get something, for example, with a list of all notifications. We can do it as pop-up right here, or pop-up with from Bootstrap. I created just default Bootstrap pop-up here. This is just a model, default model. The title I'll pass just regular text and a list of all notifications with each ref to go to our lead. And I've created special variable open. By default it's false, and when we will click on a close for our pop-up, we will just convert this variable to false. And yeah, just nothing fancy here, just default model window. And yeah, let's create run dev. Now let's test. First of all, we need to run Node.js file, and yeah, let's run it. Node index.js. Yeah, we need to check queue. Queues exist and run again. Yeah, we received the first message, so queue is working and Node.js is working too. And let's create, for example, two different windows. Yeah, here we are. Now let's update both of them. And let's update, for example, here this lead where assigned user is administrator. Let's add description, and here you can see beautiful pop-up from our library. If we will click to this pop-up, we will go to the detail view, and now you can see notifications is empty right now because we don't store it locally in JavaScript, but if you want, you can use local storage, for example, and store all notifications in the browser. Let's check different scenario, for example, marketing group. Here we can edit, and now we should see no notifications. Yeah, no notifications here because here assigned user, not administrator. Let's check, for example, for 2 users. Let's update 2 users. Here you can see notifications. Good. And now second user. Save. Again, notification. Good. And let's check what's happening here. Yeah, we've got objects, different objects. Good. Our WebSocket server works, and let's check our pop-up. Yeah, you see this is just a regular Bootstrap model view with links on it. Here you can go to detail view, and here you can also go to detail view, and now our notification system is empty. Using this way we implemented notification system, and you see our workflow is pretty easy. We created a workflow here. Here you used a custom function for the notification. This custom function just regularly sends messages to queue. Then here, in using Vue.js, we listen WebSocket, and WebSocket on its own site listen queues in RabbitMQ. Then when WebSocket get messages from RabbitMQ, he sends messages to his connected clients. Before sending this message, he checks if user ID is the same as assigned user ID from notification, like this. And then it's convert message to string and send it to connected WebSocket clients. And in Vue.js side we use just regular component for showing notification messages for pop-ups, and we use just a regular model bootstrap view for showing notification lists. Yeah, and here we also implemented store, Vuex store component, where we store all notifications, and here in the actions we just call toast function for showing notification message in a beautiful pop-up. So this is I'm done with this scenario. Thank you for watching my video. Yeah, have fun and continue coding with me. Thank you.